You've got some binge reading to do before you start binge watching. Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're going through every single book-to-movie adaptation in 2020. For this list, we're taking a look at every movie based on a book coming out in 2020. Keep in mind that release dates are subject to change, and more book adaptations could be added to the schedule as the year unfolds. Doolittle. Release date January 17th, 2020.
Are you Dr. Doolittle?
Dr. Doolittle's been adapted into a musical film starring Rex Harrison and a comedy franchise with Eddie Murphy. Now Robert Downey Jr. will follow up his tenure as Tony Stark as the doctor who can talk to animals.
We have no choice but to embark on this perilous journey.
The latest version primarily borrows from the voyages of Dr. Doolittle, sending Hugh Lofting's famed literary character across the high seas to a mysterious island. The adventure angle should provide a fresh take for audiences. Think Sherlock Holmes meets Life of Pi.
Somehow, we just belong together.
The Turning. Release date January 24th, 2020. This adaptation brings Henry James's 1898 novella into the 21st century.
I have no friends.
You have no friends?
Yep.
Well, you have one now.
Maybe.
Mackenzie Davis from Tully finds herself playing another nanny who must look after two eerie orphans, played by Brooklyn Prince of The Florida Project and Finn Wolfhard of It.
Keeping the lights on won't keep you safe.
Executive producer Steven Spielberg has been interested in revisiting the horror genre for a while, making The Turning a passion project for him.
I don't go in that part of the house.
Why not?
Don't wanna.
The film should be a fun throwback to Spielberg's previous horror efforts like Poltergeist and Arachnophobia. The Rhythm Section. Release date January 31st, 2020. Time will only tell if we ever see a female James Bond, but Eon Productions is experimenting with a similar idea in the Rhythm Section.
I need your help to find the ones who did this. I've got nothing to lose.
Stephanie Patrick was intended to be on a plane that crashed with her family. 3 years later, Stephanie learns that the crash was no accident, setting out in search of retribution.
Why are you here?
To offer you closure.
And how would you do that?
Violently.
This premise made for a page-turning novel, and it has the potential to be an equally thrilling movie starring Blake Lively.
You're much more human than I thought you'd be.
And it's a good disguise.
To All the Boys, P.S. I Still Love You. Release date February 12th, 2020.
Bring on the sequel! We are so excited.
To All the Boys I've Loved Before proved to be a breakout success for Netflix, guaranteeing we wouldn't have to wait long until author Jenny Han's sequel got the screen treatment.
Laura Jean, it's for you!
The past once again comes back to haunt Laura Jean in the form of her former crush John Ambrose McLaren, played by Jordan Fisher.
No, that's my line.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm kind of testing it out. I'm just excited to be here.
A third film has reportedly already started shooting, which means there will be plenty to love even further down the line. The Call of the Wild. Release date February 21st, 2020.
I came up here because I didn't want to be around anyone. And then I met Buck.
Director Chris Sanders of Lilo & Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon helms the latest adaptation of Jack London's 1903 novel. The film centers on a dog who's taken from his California home and forced to survive in the brutally cold Canadian wilderness.
But he could not be broken.
I don't know where you came from, but I know where you are now. Welcome to the last place on the earth.
Sanders mixes CGI animals with live-action actors in a cast that features Harrison Ford, Dan Stevens, and Karen Gillan. If you're in the mood for an underdog versus wild story, be sure to answer the call.
What do you say, Buck?
The Invisible Man. Release date February 28th, 2020. The Dark Universe may be 6 feet under, but the Invisible Man has been resurrected by Blumhouse.
Cecilia, although our relationship was far from perfect, I thought that you would talk to me rather than run away.
H.G. Wells' novel is getting a timely update, focusing on a woman played by Elizabeth Moss who inherits her abusive ex's fortune.
Listen, you're getting your freedom back, okay? Don't let him haunt you.
Hello?
As strange things start occurring, though, she begins to suspect that he's not only alive, but also somehow turned himself invisible.
He has figured out a way to be invisible.
Only thing more brilliant than inventing something that makes you invisible is coming up with the perfect way to torture you, even in death.
This setup has the potential to blur the lines between the supernatural and the psychological, reinventing a classic. All the Bright Places. Release date February 28, 2020. Along with Liz Hanna of The Post, Jennifer Niven co-wrote the screenplay for this adaptation of her young adult novel. Coming from a non-fiction background, Niven was new to the YA genre when she wrote All the Bright Places. The results, however, were positively compared to The Fault in Our Stars for its compelling romance between two broken teens.
And I know that the sun will swallow the only earth we will ever have. And I am in love with you.
Elle Fanning and Justice Smith play our star-crossed young lovers, whose lives intersect in surprising and fascinating ways. Peter Rabbit 2: The Runaway. Release date April 3, 2020. Hide your carrot stash because Peter Rabbit's hopping back into theaters. James Corden once again voices Peter in this sequel to the 2018 film, which was based on Beatrix Potter's books.
Are you the author?
It's really the rabbit story. I just wrote it down.
Look, Dad, it's Peter Rabbit.
I hate that I'm the face of this.
Fed up with playing by the rules, the rebel rabbit without a cause sets out on his own, learning more about his father along the way.
I was best friends with your dad. My name's Barnabas. You're a fierce bad rabbit, just like him.
Most of the first film's principal cast returns, but we're still waiting for Olivia Colman to sign on for one of these movies. Fatherhood. Release date April 3, 2020. Following 2017's The Upside, Kevin Hart will continue to stretch his dramatic muscles in an adaptation of Matthew Loughlin's memoir 2 Kisses for Maddie. Loughlin started writing his book and blog as a way of coping with the loss of his wife, who passed shortly after giving birth to their daughter.
Liz had read all the books. She had done everything that everything that we needed to do to make sure that this baby was going to be taken care of properly. And so, right after she died, I thought, my God, she took all the knowledge with her.
The film is being directed and co-written by Paul Weitz, who seems well-suited for this material given his previous credits, which include About a Boy and Grandma. The Secret Garden. Release date April 17, 2020.
Shall I tell you a story? It's the story of an orphan girl from a faraway land.
Frances Hodgson Burnett's The Secret Garden is one of the greatest children's novels ever written. This story of the orphaned Mary and her life-changing experiences in a fantastic garden has been brought to the screen a few times already, most notably in 1993 with Maggie Smith.
And if you ask me, there's not much to improve at Misselthwaite Manor.
Writer Jack Thorne is no stranger to adapting beloved literary works, having scribed Harry Potter and the Cursed Child and the television version of his Dark Materials, making him tailor-made for this project.
This garden, it's capable of extraordinary things. Now will you believe in the magic?
Greyhound. Release date May 8, 2020. Tom Hanks has already played a World War II captain in Saving Private Ryan and Captain Richard Phillips.
Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
So, he was a natural choice to play Commander Ernest Krauss in this adaptation of C.S. Forester's 1955 war novel The Good Shepherd. Greyhound finds our protagonist and his destroyer ship thrust into the Battle of the Atlantic, although the real battle is the one waging within himself. The captain behind the camera is Aaron Schneider, who directed the Oscar-winning short film 2 Soldiers. The Woman in the Window. Release date May 15, 2020. We'd be surprised if author A.J. Finn wasn't influenced by Alfred Hitchcock when he wrote the 2018 thriller novel The Woman in the Window.
Let's start from the beginning again, Jeff. Tell me everything you saw and what you think it means.
In the same vein of Rear Window, this mystery focuses on a nosy neighbor, played here by Amy Adams, who bears witness to a crime. Julianne Moore, Gary Oldman, and Brian Tyree Henry round out a killer supporting cast, with director Joe Wright lending his expert lens to the project. Artemis Fowl. Release date May 29, 2020.
Our world has never been in more danger. human greed is what drove us underground all those years ago.
A film adaptation of Owen Colfer's best-selling novel has been in the pipeline for nearly 2 decades. It's no surprise that Artemis Fowl has had such a lengthy journey to the cinema, as many have described the books as unfilmable.
Now you will believe. Artemis Fowl.
With a visionary director like Kenneth Branagh and an entertainment giant like Disney, however, this could be the beginning of the next massive film franchise, as well as a star-making turn for Ferdia Shaw as the young millionaire criminal mastermind. Fear Street. Release date June 2020. The Fear Street books allowed author R.L. Stine to take the scares to another level. Although the Ghosts of Fear Street TV pilot never materialized into a series, the franchise is getting a second shot with a feature film, which could commence a trilogy.
You mean without having to go to Fear Street?
Hey, don't knock Fear Street. It's putting you through college.
Is Fear Street as scary as Dad said?
Much like how 2017's It took place in the 80s, this film will take us back to the 90s, when shows like Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps ruled the airwaves.
You will beware. You're in for a scare.
The one and only Ivan. Release date August 14th, 2020.
In leafy calm, in gentle arms, a gorilla's life began. The baby was born in a tropical forest in Central Africa.
Disney's producing this adaptation of K.A. Applegate's Newbery Medal children's novel about a captive gorilla named Ivan, whose worldview is forever changed after a baby elephant named Ruby enters his life. In addition to Bryan Cranston as a circus owner, the film assembles an all-star voice cast with Sam Rockwell as Ivan, Brooklyn Prince as Ruby, and Angelina Jolie as an older elephant named Stella. Plus, Danny DeVito's voicing a dog for the first time since Look Who's Talking Now.
Kid just sprung me from the joint.
Without Remorse. Release date September 18th, 2020. When people think of movies based on the works of Tom Clancy, Jack Ryan is usually the first name that comes to mind. Although Without Remorse takes place in the same universe, the focus is shifted from Mr. Ryan to John Clark.
And why is that a problem, Mr. Ryan?
The book functioned as an origin story for Clark, who will be portrayed by Michael B. Jordan in this adaptation.
Something ain't adding up.
The plot finds Clark using his resources as a CIA operative and ex-Navy SEAL to avenge his girlfriend.
Revenge is a very, very, very dangerous motivation.
Death on the Nile. Release date October 9th, 2020. Kenneth Branagh has certainly been keeping busy lately, as he not only directed Artemis Fowl, but this sequel to Murder on the Orient Express as well. Branagh also once again stars as Detective Hercule Poirot, although he's far from the only big name attached.
I was correct in certain predictions. Quite. I do not need to read the telegram.
Annette Bening, Letitia Wright, Armie Hammer, Russell Brand, and Gal Gadot are just some of the other celebs tied up in this classic Agatha Christie mystery. Of course, the real star is the Egyptian setting.
It is my theory that you have an obsessive love of jewelry, madame. That you coveted Madame Doyle's pearls, and that you determined to possess them even if this meant robbery or murder.
The Witches. Release date October 9th, 2020. Although it came out in 1990, Nicholas Roeg's adaptation of The Witches truly felt like the last of the creepy kids movies that defined the 80s. Hopefully, director Robert Zemeckis and producer Guillermo del Toro can bring out that same sense of terror and whimsy in their version. They could also potentially remain more faithful to the bittersweet ending of Roald Dahl's children's book.
I really am happy to be a mouse, you know.
In any case, Anne Hathaway is an ideal choice to play the two-faced Grand High Witch.
There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne. You and your friends better batten down the hatches, because when it hits, you're all gonna wonder how you ever thought you could live so large and leave so little for the rest of us.
Dune. Release date December 18th, 2020. If there's one book that deserves another chance at the silver screen, it's Dune. While the 1984 version has its fans, there is a reason why even director David Lynch considered the film a failure.
But when you don't have final cut, total creative freedom, you stand to die the death.
Who better to tackle Frank Herbert's epic novel than Denis Villeneuve, who's given us modern sci-fi classics like Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. With Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, and Oscar Isaac also on board, we have every confidence that this adaptation will find the spice.
He who controls the spice controls the universe.
Chaos Walking. Release date to be announced 2020. Starting with The Knife of Never Letting Go in 2008, Patrick Ness's Chaos Walking trilogy received universal praise. With a director like Doug Liman, not to mention Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley in starring roles, Chaos Walking was shaping up to be one of 2019's anticipated films. Following lousy test screenings, though, reshoots were ordered for the quote unreleasable cut. Will the alterations save the picture, or are audiences walking into chaos? The ask is still waiting for the answer. Rebecca. Release date to be announced 2020. Alfred Hitchcock's adaptation of Rebecca stands out as the director's only film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. That's a pretty tough act to follow, but Daphne du Maurier's gothic novel is open to multiple interpretations, and director Ben Wheatley knows a thing or two about the thriller genre.
And you die. And your families, they die. No wriggle room on that then?
Lily James and Armie Hammer fill the roles that were previously played by Joan Fontaine and Laurence Olivier, respectively.
Darling, could we have a costume ball, just as you used to?
Now, what put that into your mind? Has Beatrice been at you?
No, but I feel that we ought to do something to make people feel that Mandel is just the same as it always was.
Now the question is, will Netflix have another Oscar contender on their hands? Enola Holmes. Release date to be announced 2020. Who knew that Sherlock Holmes had a younger sister?
Inevitably, one begins to twist facts to suit theories, instead of theories to suit facts.
The Enola Holmes mysteries are sort of like a Victorian version of Nancy Drew. While for young adults, they're anything but elementary. Millie Bobby Brown plays Sherlock's 14-year-old sibling, who's every bit as adept at solving mysteries.
I found him.
The first book in the series centers on the disappearance of Enola's mother, played here by Helena Bonham Carter. We can also expect Sherlock himself to pop up, with Henry Cavill in the role here. The Devil All the Time. Release date to be announced 2020. There have been numerous books and movies about war, but only so many about its aftermath. Donald Ray Pollock's The Devil All the Time was a harrowing exploration of post-World War II life. Antonio Campos of The Punisher is re-teaming with Netflix for what promises to be an equally disturbing interpretation. With a non-linear structure, the film stars Tom Holland, Sebastian Stan, Robert Pattinson, Bill Skarsgård, and Mia Wasikowska as people dealing with the traumatic ramifications of war in Ohio. Minamata. Release date to be announced 2020. W. Eugene Smith was a prevalent photojournalist who most notably chronicled the results of mercury poisoning in Japan.
Once again, we've traded in our suits for boots to see firsthand why what happened in Minamata must not be forgotten.
Smith worked on this provocative photo essay with his wife, Eileen Miyoko Smith, who'd assume much of the heavy lifting after her husband was attacked by Shiso Company employees trying to repress the truth. Johnny Depp plays Smith in this dramatization, which should be an emotional powerhouse if it's anything like the book. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Stargirl. Release date to be announced 2020. Jerry Spinelli's best-selling young adult novel was showered with accolades when it hit shelves, including a Parents' Choice Gold Award. The book was turned into a stage play in 2015, and it's bound to find an even wider audience as a Disney Plus movie. Rising star Grace VanderWaal plays Stargirl Caraway, a beacon of light in a bleak sky.
Genuinely, it sounds so overdramatic when I say this, but it literally changed my life. Like, I actually came out a different person, and I miss everyone from the cast so much.
She influences the shy Leo to come out of his shell, amounting to a charming love story about the importance of individuality.
About teenagers trying to fit in a school that doesn't like letting people be different.
Like most schools.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.